Hi, it is a new school year. I'm so excited to be back doing First Chapter Friday videos. So, this is the first one of the 2024-25 school year that I'm doing, and it's a book that came out pretty recently called And Then Boom by Lisa Fipps. So, Lisa Fipps is the same author that did Starfish, that great book. And this one is also a novel in verse, which means it's kind of like written as a series of poems. And this one is a little bit adventure, a little bit humor, a little bit realistic fiction. In our library, it's in the adventure survival section because it has a little bit of a survival-y, adventure-y feel to it. It reminded me, if you're a fan of Small as an Elephant, or if you're a fan of Benefits of Being an Octopus or Free Lunch, this might be an interesting one for you. So let's get into it. So this book starts with a dedication, and I'll read this one. To every kid who hungers for food, hungers to be out of poverty, hungers to let go of the shoulder-breaking, knee-buckling weight of each and then boom, hungers to be a kid instead of a grown-up in a kid's body, hungers for a safe place away from stormy people popping in and out of your life, and who hungers to never be left abandoned and alone again. I know you. I was you. I wrote this book for you and for you to give you hope, something to believe in, and to tell you it can all work out in the end. You are not alone. In memory of Grandmom, Eleanor Elizabeth Davison Brown Fipps. Still miss your Captain America hugs. XOXOXO. Just like Superman. My name's Joseph Oak, and since an oak tree grows from an acorn nut, Grandmom calls me a little nut. And if Mom's around to hear it, she adds, I'm allergic to nuts. It isn't nice of Mom to say that, but she's not known for saying or doing nice things. But I never thought she'd do what she did. I never thought a lot of things, like I'd be on the news and the whole wide world would end up finding out about the moment I flew, just like Superman. Origin story. I'm not a superhero, straight up not. I mean, yeah, sure, I flew like Superman once, but I don't have any special powers unless you count my ability to be invisible and to survive. I do have one thing in common with superheroes. I have an origin story. So does Grandmom, who's from England. Mom, who gets the itch. My best friends, Hakeem and Nick. Uncle Frankie, who's not really my uncle. And my sixth grade teacher, Mrs. Swan. Each of us has an origin story, the story of how we became who we are. This is my story, and when you read it, I want you to remember something. When Superman summons every ounce of his strength to survive something others can't even imagine, he's the same person he was when he crumpled to his knees, left helpless by kryptonite. He's the same person he was when he was Clark Kent, just living day by day, invisible to the world. Superman's the sum of all his moments, and so am I. Ugh, it's just such a good first chapter. Why the world needs comic books. In comic books, superheroes use their powers to help others, defeat villains, and save themselves. Good triumphs over evil, giving you hope, something to believe in. Comic books remind you that even when horrible things happen, it can all work out in the end. And thens and booms. Every story boils down to and thens and booms. And thens and booms are all about the moments when something happens that changes everything. It could be bad and it could be good, but it's often not. So always pay attention to and thens and booms. Scratching an itch. I'm only allergic to one thing, poison ivy. I learned that the hard way one day when my basketball rolled into the woods. Leaves brushed across my face as I parted them like curtains to find the ball. When I woke up the next day, I looked like, well, pretend you need to blow up a big balloon and fill your cheeks full of air. Bigger, bigger, bigger. Now squint. That's what I look like. But worse than how I looked was how I felt. An itch is the worst. You can't stop thinking about it. And the more you try not to, the more you do. Plus, you just have to scratch it. But then an itch itches even more. It's almost impossible to live with an itch. Prepare for takeoff. My grampy was a pilot, and my grandmom says you can always tell when a pilot's preparing for takeoff. They start ticking boxes on a checklist, and the list is always the same. Tick, tick, tick. Mom's like a pilot when she gets the itch. That's what I call it when she gets restless and wants to take off. Her itch takeoff checklist goes like this: stares out windows, sighs loudly a lot, swings like a pendulum from sad to mean and back again. Tick, tick, tick. Mom leaves for days, weeks, months. You never know when she'll take off or when she'll come back, but you know takeoff's coming. Tick, tick, tick. Mom's first takeoff. The first time I remember Mom taking off was on a sweaty, sticky summer day. We lived in the gingerbread house then, the color of graham crackers with a fancy white trim. It was old and didn't have air conditioning. Mom sighed as we sat on the porch swing, hoping for a cool breeze. She pumped her legs, and the swing creaked as we rocked. My legs stuck straight out, too little to dangle down. As soon as I spied yellow wings with black tiger stripes and a blue tail, I jumped down to chase the eastern tiger swallowtail, and Mom chased me. All I wanted was to hold the butterfly. But every time I got close to it, it took off. "What on earth's wrong with you? Who tries to trap a butterfly?" Mom yelled, picking me up, carrying me back to the porch, and plopping me down on the swing. I flinched when the screen door banged as Mom went inside the house. She came back out with her purse slung over one shoulder and her keys jangling. "Where are you going? I go too," I yelled, scooting off the swing. She didn't even look at me. She just went straight to her car and got in. Slam! Squeal! Vroom! Mom took off. I hopped onto my big wheel and pedaled down the sidewalk trying to catch her, but my little legs just couldn't keep up. Make me choose. Mom wears a silk butterfly scarf all the time. She says she's a butterfly and butterflies are free. You should be able to go wherever you want, whenever you want. Fly away, be free. But Grandmom would say, "You're not a butterfly, Carly. You're a mom. You can't be both." "Oh yeah?" Mom would answer. "Then make me choose and watch what happens." Pop. When I was little, I had a jack-in-the-box. Music played as I turned the handle, and I never knew exactly when it was coming, but I knew the door would open with a loud pop, and a clown would be right there. The longer I turned the handle, the more nervous I got waiting for that pop. That's what it's like after Mom gets the itch and takes off. I never know when she'll pop back into my life. The longer I wait for her, the more nervous I get that she won't ever return, and yet the more I fear her coming home. Onomatopoeia. Comic books are full of onomatopoeia. I can tell you a story about Mom and me using only onomatopoeia. Grr, slap, ouch, shh. Onomatopoeias are words that sound just like what's actually happening. Oodles of doodles. I'm a doodler. I have a notebook full of doodles. Oodles of doodles. I doodle the infinity symbol a lot. It looks like the number 8 on its side. When you draw it, the line loops and connects, so you end up not being able to tell where it all even started. But once it starts, it never ends. It goes on forever because it keeps repeating itself. Sometimes I don't even realize what's going on inside me till I start doodling and whatever was in me is out of me and right there on the paper. I just doodled a circle that became a planet in a galaxy where grown-ups act like grown-ups and do what they're supposed to do over and over again, the world where I want to live. Power of a word. Grampy died before I was born, but Grandmom tells me so many stories about him, I feel like I know him. Grampy loved to fly. He was a U.S. Air Force pilot, and Grandmom met him when he was stationed in England. He also loved restoring old cars. He bought this one called a Pacer for a few $100 and spent tons of time tinkering with it. Grandmom still drives it. The bottom part of the Pacer is like a regular car. The top part is round with lots of glass. Kind of like you set an upside-down fishbowl on it. I call it the fishbowl. The name fishbowl is sort of a word doodle. It paints an image in your head, just like a doodle gives you an image on paper. Now, even if you've never seen a Pacer, you can imagine what it looks like. From poor to poorer. Grandmom said that when Grampy was alive, they had enough money, but I only know what it's like to not have enough. Grandmom and I managed to do okay, mostly, unless the fishbowl broke down, or one of us got sick and needed medicine, or the furnace stopped working. Anything unexpected. Then we'd get way behind. We could usually count on catching up, though, when Grandmom got her tax refund. Then all the bills got paid at once for a change, and sometimes we had enough left over to splurge some. To put extra food in the fridge, buy new shoes, and, if we were lucky, winter coats. I didn't know what poorer than poor was until the mess with Mom. The mess with Mom. The mess with Mom started about a year ago when a sheriff in Cheyenne called and said they'd arrested Mom on a warrant for a crime she committed here, so they were boomeranging her back to face the charges. Don't ask me what Mom did, I ain't tellin'. That's the point of saying the mess with Mom. It allows me to talk about what happened without having to spill my guts about every awful detail. Long story short, Grandmom had to put the house up for bail to get Mom out of jail. And then, boom, Mom took off again and didn't show up for court. And then, boom, again. Grandmom had to sell the house to pay the court fees and the lawyers to get Mom, and now herself too, out of legal trouble. What a mess. In math, my teacher, Mrs. Swan, talks about a multiplier, the number you use to multiply another number. When it comes to messes, Mom's a multiplier. One mess becomes two, becomes four, infinity symbol. Wish I didn't have to know. I think I know a lot of things kids shouldn't have to know. I know how much Grandma makes cleaning houses during the day and offices at night. I know how much the government loads each month onto her SNAP card, short for Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, though most people still call it food stamps. I know the list of what SNAP will pay for, like veggies and vegetable seeds for a garden, and what it won't pay for, like soap, shampoo, deodorant, detergent, toothpaste, and toilet paper, anything you need to get and stay clean. I know when the cost of anything, like gas for the car, goes up, the amount we have left for food goes down. I know the humiliation of a grocery store clerk telling you your total and you don't have enough, so you have to choose what food to put back, all while everyone waiting in line watches. I know now I need to be extra careful to triple check the math when adding up the cost of everything we put into our grocery cart. I know all this, and I sure wish I didn't. What I know about my dad. Two halves does not equal whole. That's what that little symbol means. Our front yard was a park when we lived in the gingerbread house. Swings, zip lines, slides, a real basketball court, a creek to play in on hot, humid days. I was furious when I had to say goodbye to our house, to the park. I picked up rock after rock and threw them as hard as I could into the creek. Kerplunk, kerplunk, kerplunk. Anyone who saw me thought I was just throwing rocks into the water. No one knew I was imagining throwing them at Mom. Half of me hates my mom. Half of me loves my mom. And somehow, even with two halves, I don't feel whole. Unhoused. I once saw an unhoused woman curled up against a store during a snowstorm get shooed away like a stray cat. Hiss! Go away! Get! The manager yelled. I don't think anyone should be treated like that. I always wondered what happened to her, but until we lost the gingerbread house, I never stopped to think about how she ended up unhoused. Now I get it. It's kind of like how you take one step after another, climbing the ladder to a slide. Some people's ladders have lots of steps, others just a few. But there's always one final step, and then you're sitting at the top of the slide, and all you can do is hold on tight, because once you slip over the edge, boom, there's no stopping until you reach the bottom. The fishbowl. It's easier to explain all that happened after the mess with Mom if I describe my fishbowl doodles. I doodled the fishbowl full of our stuff. I doodled the shelter with a sign saying no vacancy and people waiting in a long line. I doodled the fishbowl going in circles around town as Grandmom and I looked for a place we could afford. I doodled the fishbowl parked at one house, then another, as Grandma and I couch surfed, staying with her friends and coworkers. When we wore out our welcome and couldn't couch surf anymore, I doodled the fishbowl in the parking lot at the store that's open 24/7 and Grandmom and me sleeping inside the car. I felt like we were goldfish in a fishbowl. Anyone could see us and watch our every move. And then, boom, I discovered something. Nobody even looked at us. We were invisible. People didn't want to see us because if they did, they'd get scared that one day they could be us. So, I'm not going to lie, this is definitely a book that has some heavy subject matter, but I don't, it's not a sad book. I mean, it has some sad stuff in it, of course, but it also has some funny things, and it has some uplifting things, and it has some adventure things, and it has some survival things. And if you are a person who has maybe experienced being unhoused or has experienced food insecurity, you should read this book because it's important to read books where we can see ourselves because it helps us feel less alone and more seen in the world. If you are a person who has been fortunate enough to never experience being unhoused or food insecurity, then you should read this book because it's really important for people to understand that there are people in our own communities that are living this way. And there are a lot of stereotypes out there. There are a lot of people who assume that people who are unhoused are drug addicts or, had something wrong with them, and it's just, not true. I mean, there are plenty of people who unfortunately are just one and boom away from something happening. So, I really really loved this book. This is the book that I read. I read a bunch of books this summer. This is the book that really stuck with me. That as soon as I read it, I was like, I have to share this book with my students. So I hope you read it, and I hope you enjoy it.